the Road Racing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Known for speeds that reach well above 300 kilometers per hour, for the howl of highly tuned exhaust notes, and for gripping nose-to-tail battles. GP racing is where the best bikes and riders gather to battle for supremacy. It's the world's premier motorsports event, analogous only to Formula One racing. In every season of this historied series, the drama created by the passion to win stirs the very spirit of every fan who watches the action. Suzuki dominated the 500cc GP championship from 1976 through 1982, winning 7 consecutive constructors' titles and 4 riders' championship titles. This glorious history and the superhuman efforts of all involved are precisely what makes Suzuki the brand it is today. Suzuki and other Japanese motorcycle manufacturers had previously taken the GP world by storm. However, all the works teams pulled out in the late 1960s after sudden changes to the regulations stole away any incentive to compete in that arena. But soon after, as the world's economies expanded, particularly in Europe, North America, and other industrialized countries, demand started growing for faster, more powerful sports bikes. In response, motorcycle manufacturers around the world started selling now legendary models, including Suzuki's high-performance T500. Though the model was popular, winning in the face of increasingly fierce market competition and appealing to customers made it necessary to once again return to GP racing. Suzuki made the decision to return to road racing by taking on a new challenge in North America, the home of large displacement bikes.
T500 をベースにした TR500 っていうのを作ってて、でそれでデートナなんかを出てたわけですよね。
Though based on a mass production bike, the TR500 developed by Suzuki's race group soon proved itself a worthy competitor and garnered acclaim overseas for its outstanding performance. Suzuki brought the TR500 to the European rounds as well, where riders finished 2nd, 3rd and 5th in the 1971 500cc GP series, while also chalking up a win in the Ulster GP. In 1973, Suzuki entered a works team in the 500cc World Championship Series.
In 1973年にレースを参加するってことで、またみんな昔の人間が呼び集められたんです。
Veteran rider Jack Findlay took 5th place in the 1973 500cc GP series aboard the TR500. Highlighting this achievement was his win at the legendary Isle of Man TT.
スピードも 500cc であの時に2気筒で255キロぐらいだから速いなと思いましたけども。
The third generation TR500 had evolved to pump out 74 horsepower. Also tearing up the circuits in 1973 was Suzuki's TR750 race machine.
パワーが足りないっていうことで、それを水冷にしてみて、でそれでもっていうことで、その当時出たばっかの GT750 これをベースにした TR750 っていうのを作って。
The TR750 was codenamed XR11. The Suzuki Race Group put its reputation on the line in taking the company's largest water-cooled two-stroke engine from the GT750 and using it to build the TR750 as a racing machine. Producing more than 100 horsepower and reaching a top speed of 280 kilometers per hour at Daytona, The TR750 was highly successful in a variety of road racing events.
とりあえずはある車で 500cc はそれから750はまあ2機種はそれなりにサーキットで走れるような車があったもんで
The same year, future World GP champion Barry Sheene won the Formula 750 European Championship title aboard the TR750. The TR500 and TR750 performed adequately in a variety of racing events. But being based on production models, they were limited in their potential to evolve.
PR750 なんか富士スピードウェイなんかをテスト行きましたけどね、やっぱりまだ完璧っていうやつがなかったし。
In 1973, rival Yamaha jumped a step ahead by introducing its new two-stroke four-cylinder 500cc GP machine. The newly developed Yamaha bike caught the attention of GP fans around the world when it won the first two GP races of the season. Winning major races was clearly an absolute must were Suzuki to take command of the expanding market for large sports bikes. This led to a corporate strategy focused on entering a new 500cc GP machine in the fastest class of motorcycling's premier road racing series. Thus began the race group's first challenge in 6 years to develop a thoroughbred Suzuki racing machine. The codename was XR14, and the RG product naming was an acronym for Racer of Grand Prix. The engine had 4 cylinders in a distinctive square layout. The square 4 engine architecture later became synonymous with Suzuki. The square 4's history actually dated back to 1963. It was a layout already capable of pumping out 200 horsepower per litre of displacement, but that wasn't able to deliver the desired result in those early days. Even so, Suzuki was now willing to bet on its future potential.
主任だったね、長谷さん、整備の方のチーフだった神谷さんが相談して決めたらしいんですけどね、やっぱりコンパクトで小さい車にするにはどうすればいいんだっていうことで、昔の経験のある4気筒の流れを組んで、ああいうスクエア4にしたみたいですね。
The development team went with a 56 by 50.5mm super short stroke design. Early builds already pumped out more than 100 horsepower.
TR500 にしろ TR750 にしろ生産者ベースの車ですから、もう一から全部クランクケースから作ったっていうのは XR14 ですからね。ピストンもシリンダーもマフラーもそれから点火時期なんかも全部単気筒でセッティングをして、でそれをまとめて完成車として4気筒のエンジンを回して耐久性とパワー総合馬力を調べる。
Suzuki was also battling hard in the Motocross World Championship while developing the TR500 and TR750.
だからその頃同時並行進行ですよね。TR750 とこの RG500。
It was an incredibly hectic schedule, but somehow the team managed to complete a prototype by the end of 1973. Barry Sheene flew over from the UK at the beginning of 1974 for final testing. The RG500, the racing machine destined to rewrite Suzuki's history, was born. The 1974 season began. Suzuki's factory riders were newcomer Barry Sheene, who earned a title on the TR750 the previous season, and veteran GP rider Jack Findlay.
最 先は非常に良かったんです。第一戦で2番を取ってこれはいけるんじゃないかで周りも何もないところからよく作ったねっていうぐらいの褒めの言葉をもらったぐらい良かったんですけども、その後その年は全然ダメでしたね。
The RG wasn't yet fully battle-tested and was lacking in stability.
普通サイクルってもうちょっと間違うとすぐ壊れるでね。だけどもピンポイントで勝負せないともう絶対勝てないの。
Suzuki had to be content with 5th and 6th place in the title rankings. Even so, that was enough to shake up rivals by indicating the great speed and potential the new RG and rookie Barry Sheene possessed. Taking the results to heart, the Suzuki Race Group immediately set out to develop a stable and more controllable machine that could win the next season. In addition to increasing chassis rigidity and engine performance, the group introduced laid-down rear shocks to greatly improve the RG500's competitiveness.
当時イギリスが非常にレースに興味を持っていまして、バリー・シーンがレースが終わることに来てうち使ってくれっていうことはしきりに言ってて、それじゃあ始めようかっていうことになったと思うんですけども。
In March 1975, Sheene came off his bike at Daytona while riding at 280 kilometers per hour. He suffered serious injuries that could have ended his promising career. However, demonstrating amazing resilience, he returned just 7 weeks later to compete in the season's second GP race. Though the doctor wouldn't let him compete in the final, he placed 6th in qualifying. His teammate Tuvo Lancivori finished 2nd in the final and then took 3rd place in the 3rd race. The RG had reached a point where it was close to becoming a winner. The 6th race, the Dutch TT, was one for the history books. After battling neck and neck throughout, Sheene passed longtime champion Giacomo Agostini on the outside of the last corner of the last lap to achieve his long-cherished goal of a 500cc GP win. The packed crowd of racing fans went wild with excitement witnessing the rise of a new hero. With his first 500cc GP win and the first for the RG500, Sheene achieved instant stardom. Landing 2 wins in the season, Sheene and the RG500 sent a clear message to race fans that a new generation had arrived. It was a defining moment that would greatly change the Grand Prix landscape. During the off-season, the team changed to a fat square 54 by 54 millimeter engine design that gave the RG a wider power band.
非常に大きい変革だったんですね。低中速が非常に安定して使えるようになって走り方も変わってすごく速くなったんですよ。
The updated Square 4 boosted output to 119 horsepower. In addition, changes to the chassis resulted in greatly improved handling.
バリーがこちらに来てテストやった時に285キロぐらいかな出る車だったんですけどね、中央ピットのあれがピタッと全然振れなくなったんですよ。
リアサスペンションの取り付け位置をいろいろと検討しまして、前の方へ持ってくることでレバー費を稼いだ。それがなかなか好評だったもんですから、
4台ぐらいのテストのうちの2台目でそれ乗ったんですけども、忘れませんけどね、あとはもう乗らなくてもいいと。俺はこれで今年GP を走ると、絶対チャンピオン取るって言ってて、そのぐらい気に入ってくれたんですよ。
The RG had at last proven its true worth. A global financial crisis impacted the race world in 1976. MV Agusta disbanded its team, and Yamaha, the previous year's champion, took a break from entering a works team. Suzuki also regrouped. Operation of the team was entrusted to leading UK importer Heron Suzuki. It was a cost-cutting move, as was sending only one advisor from Japan.
日本人一人っていうのは大変だったね。76年はね、その次の年は一人で行けって言われて大変。殺されるかと思ったね。
In the face of this, Sheen had the bike he wanted. So with Donald Duck on his helmet, he took his beloved RG and aimed for the championship, sporting the number 7 that was to become his trademark. It would prove to be Sheen's year and the year of the RG. Rider and machine combined to sweep the first 3 races of the season. Scoring his 5th victory at the 7th race of the season, the Swedish GP, Sheen locked up his first 500cc GP world title and the first for the Suzuki RG. For Suzuki, it was the company's first constructors title in 8 years.
一番印象に残っているのはオランダのダッチ TT なんですけども、ストレートで簡単に抜けたっていうことが非常にパワフルな車だなと。
Before the season began, Suzuki had released a production version of the racer based on the previous year's Works RG. A large number of riders flocked to the production racer after NV and Yamaha pulled out, leaving them without rides. As a result, from this year forward, the majority of the top runners in the 500cc GP were riding RGs.
売り出したらプレミアムついちゃって、当時MV のアゴスチーニとかあれが乗り換えちゃったのね、市販レーサーに。
市販レーサーにした時にもすでに非常に高いレベルだったもんですから、で、誰でも、勝てたっていう感じ。あれは鈴木の中でも傑作じゃないかと思うんですけどね。
Not only had it brought Sheen the title, the RG had evolved to a point where it commanded the 500cc GP class and completely filled the leaders board. "1977 brought the return of the Yamaha Works team. Suzuki was determined to bring home another title. It met the challenge with a team of 3 riders. Suzuki evolved the RG even further in hopes of winning for a second consecutive year. While peak output was 118 horsepower, the engine was torquey and even more controllable. The rear suspension was also revised. Sheen was in top form, riding his RG to 6 wins in the first 8 races. Demonstrating incredible speed in the sport's premier class, he won his second consecutive 500cc GP Riders title. The RG itself went unrivaled, with 9 wins in the season's 11 races, handily earning Suzuki its second straight constructors title. After the season finished, Sheen received a British Royal Honour, an MBE, and became not only a national hero, but also a world-famous superstar.
僕にとっては非常にラッキーなんですけど、ビートルズのね、ジョージ・ハリソンとかいろんなと一緒に飯が食えたっていうのは、そういう有名人はやっぱり有名人呼ぶみたいな形でですね、お友達になることも多いみたいですね。
As 1978 rolled around, Sheen's popularity had made him a social phenomenon, and GP racing was no longer limited to the purview of race fans. Nobody doubted that the RG and Sheen were about to win their 3rd straight championship titles. The RG once again evolved greatly and was renamed the RGA. Given the codename XR22, The new machine adopted stepped cylinder pairs, with the front pair lower than the rear. This layout made the square 4 engine lighter and more compact, and output increased to 120 horsepower. Small spoilers added to the sides of the body were intended to improve aerodynamics. Other innovations that greatly enhanced its battle readiness included a new, easy-to-remove cassette-type transmission that improved serviceability. However, this is when Kenny Roberts entered the fray, riding for longtime rival Yamaha.
すごいやつが来たなと思ったね。もうびっくりしたね。こいつを任すには大変なもんだなとかね。確かにキングケニーだね。
コースで見て初めてびっくりするような横滑らしてロードレーサーが曲がっていくっていうのが初めて、次元が違うな。グリップに頼らない走行ができてたケニー・ロバーツが速かったんじゃないかと。
Sheen and the RGA got off to a great start, winning the first race. But soon after, he took ill and had trouble producing results. Roberts, on the other hand, ably demonstrated the skills he had mastered on American dirt tracks as he rode to 3 straight wins in the 3rd, 4th and 5th races of his first GP season. The two battled for first place the entire season, and just 8 points separated them heading into the 10th race. It all came down to the final race, and Roberts took the crown. The moment marked the first time an American rider won the World Championship in the history of GP racing. It was also a moment that crushed the hopes of Sheen's fans. Still, 4 RG riders won a total of 6 races. That was enough to earn Suzuki its 3rd consecutive constructors' title, even if the victory came by a narrow margin of just 7 points. For 1979, Suzuki set its sights on defeating Roberts with the newly evolved RGB. It introduced anti-nosedive forks and other refinements to improve cornering ability.
「勝ててるからもう去年のものをまた使う」っていうレベルの開発は一切してなかったですね。毎年変わってるんですよ。
最初は全体やってたけども、スリックに出てから来てからシャーシーがものすごく落ちるもんで、シャーシーやらせてくれっつってシャーシーのシャーシーはこう無限大にやるとこがあるもんで、シャーシーで勝とう、早く曲がれりゃいいんだと。
Despite the team's efforts, Roberts once again took the championship with 5 wins. Sheen finished with 3 wins. The other 2 RG riders, Ferrari and Hartog, each took 1 win. Privateers riding RGs won an additional 2 races. This gave Suzuki a total of 7 wins out of 12 races, enough to take home its 4th straight constructors' title. With the exception of Roberts, the top 10 ranking riders all rode RGs. With its consistent performance, the production RG demonstrated its remarkable reliability. The large number of privateers using the RG kept Suzuki and its loyal following of riders in the points.
バリー・シーンもちょっと力を落としてきた時で、その時ですらチャンピオンにはマニアックチャンピオンにはなったもんですから、鈴木の力があったんだっていう私は理解してるんですよね。
Though ace rider Barry Sheen had recovered physically, he was plagued with machine troubles that robbed him of his chance to take the championship.
一回壊れた時に申し訳ないって俺がもうちょっとね点検してればよかったのになって言ったけども、そのレースっていうのは二度と帰ってこないもんで、チャンピオンにものすごくかかってくるわけだよな。いやお前のせいじゃないとかね、俺がその次頑張るで、バリーがね俺が頑張るで大丈夫だ、やっぱりいいやつだね。だけど彼だってもう悩んでたことはいっぱいあると思うよね。
Once the season ended, Sheen left to ride for Yamaha. Development continued for the next season, and the RGB evolved into the XR34. Engine refinements, including to the carburetors, raised output to 122 horsepower. The XR34 adopted Suzuki's full floater suspension and weighed in at a highly competitive 143 kilograms. (1980) was the season Kawasaki entered a team in the 500cc GP. Honda, who'd entered a four-stroke machine the previous year, was struggling to get results. Suzuki's new ace was American rider Randy Mamola. Even as a fierce battle unfolded on the GP circuit, Suzuki was already developing their next weapon to use against Kenny Roberts. Codenamed XR35, this machine was to become the next evolution of the RG.
マリシンがチャンピオン取って、その後ケニー・ロバーツが世界チャンピオン取るじゃないですか。これで非常にそれは気に入らんと、ね、メーカーチャンピオン取ってるけども個人タイトルを取っていないと。だからね、ケニー・ロバーツからチャンピオンを取り戻すために新しい車を作ろうと。
まず全く違う次元の違うものを作ろうかと。本田さんも必死でやってくると、山さんもやってくる、川崎さんもやってくると。でこの状態でやっぱり勝てない。全く違うものを作ろう
The
と。
last race of the 1980 series. It was a one-to-one battle between Kenny Roberts in first place and Randy Mamola in second. However, Galina Suzuki's rider Marco Lucinelli came out of nowhere, passed them both, and took the checkered flag for the win. Lucinelli not only demonstrated his growth as a rider, but also showed promise as a force to be reckoned with in coming seasons. In the end, Roberts emerged as the champion for his third straight year. Mamola finished second, and Lucinelli came third. Suzuki took the constructor's title for the fifth straight year.
レイアウトを始めたのがその年明けからその81年の車を作り始めたんですよね。ケニー・ロバーツを破るために任すためにお前がエンジンをレイアウトやってくれんかっつってそれは言われました。はっきり
この車ならチャンピオン取れるなって感じたのはこの車だけだね。
来年の鈴木の車すごい速いらしいぜって噂がなんか飛び交ったみたいなんですよね。
1981 was time for Suzuki to unveil its powerful new weapon, the XR35, or RG Gamma. Gamma is the third letter of the Greek alphabet and an acronym for the Greek word that means glory. This machine was born of Suzuki's determination and untiring efforts to defeat Kenny Roberts.
軽く作って小型に作るっていうことがね、一番重要じゃないかなと思って、コンパクトに軽いエンジンを設計しなきゃいかんなと思って作りました。
最初の目標が135キロになったのかな。だから20キロっつって簡単にできたわけじゃないわけ。
80年ですかね、一番覚えてるけどね。それまでちょっとどんどんフラットになって重くなってきて、それを一気にあれで十何キロ軽くして130キロ台に持ってきたと。
The extremely compact new Square 4 design succeeded in reducing engine weight by 7 kilograms, all while putting out close to 130 horsepower. The RG Gamma debuted at the 1981 Austrian GP, the opening race of the 500cc GP season. Suzuki riders Mamola, Crosby, and Hiroyuki Kawasaki amazed everyone by sweeping the podium.
川崎宏之が3位になっただけで、メカニックにもう矢印アップにしろっつって、それでこう矢印をこのくらいにしてあるもんで「マウンケロ!」っつってでワンツースリーになったけど、あの時は感動しましたけどね。
川崎宏之選手が日本に帰ってきてこう言ったんですよ。なんかすごい車速かったぜって。ケニー・ロバーツ前走ってたけど俺抜いちゃったもんなとか言って。
The RG Gamma went on to take the pole position in 10 out of 11 races in the season. The machine was so fast, Suzuki riders won 8 races and ran rings around the Yamaha riders, including Kenny Roberts.
全盛期だったもんですからね、勝った思い出しかないですね。
The battle for the glorious Riders title was fought between two Suzuki RG Gamma riders. It was a dead heat down to the final race between Mamola and Lucinelli. In the end, Lucinelli's 5 wins were enough to earn him the Riders title. The RG Gamma performed brilliantly, winning back the title and wiping the slate clean. Mamola finished second in the series. And Suzuki landed its 6th consecutive Constructors title.
キネリはこんなバンダナを巻いていつもねレースの前にこれで表彰台でタバコ吸ったりとかそういうちょっと破天荒なところありましたからね。反抗最中になったんでしょうね、きっとね、そういう意味では。だからマシンを与えられると非常にねいいポテンシャルを発揮していきなりチャンピオン取っちゃうんですからね。
But once the season was over, shockwaves rippled through Suzuki. The newly crowned champion, Lucinelli, left to ride for Honda. Franco Uncini replaced him as the Italian Gallina Suzuki team's top rider. Mamola and Ferrari were contracted to ride for a British Suzuki team. Around this time, the manufacturers were all developing their machines at a fierce pace. Yamaha came out with their new V4 engine, which aimed to put a stop to Suzuki's lead. Honda gave up on their 4-stroke and introduced the new 3-cylinder 2-stroke NS500 race machine. All the manufacturers were achieving huge evolutions in their engines. Of course, Suzuki continued to develop their machine as well, and introduced the latest evolution of the RG Gamma, codenamed the XR40. An engine lighter than that of the XR35 and a newly developed aluminium frame were the lightest they could be. From the start of the 1982 season, Gallina Suzuki's former top rider Lucinelli and new ace Uncini battled fiercely. Neither Yamaha nor Honda could come close to matching the speed of this year's RG Gamma. Uncini ran away from the pack, winning 5 of the first 9 races.
もう当時はね、鈴木の車に乗れば必ず勝てた。だからウンチーニにしてもルキネリにしても勝ったんじゃないかと思うんですけどね。
勝つためにはどうしたらいいかって言ったらやっぱりバランスなんですよね。エンジンがあって車体があってチームがあってライダーがいると、それが全部きれいにバランスねあった時に初めて勝てると。
Franco Uncini's 5 wins earned him the 1982 season Riders title. His uncatchable speed placed him firmly on the champion's throne. And it goes without saying that Suzuki once again took the Constructors title. Winning the Constructors World Championship 7 years straight was a great achievement. Of course, it would be naive to think that Yamaha or Honda were doing nothing to stop Suzuki and take away its leading position. Each was putting their dignity on the line and working frantically to advance development and build a winning machine.
山田さんはずっと2ストロークで500でやってて、本田さんはね4ストロークやって500で出てきたり、だんだんね戦闘力が上がってきて互角になった戦いになってきましたけども、なかなか手強いなと思いましたけどね。
The RG had flourished since its introduction in 1974. But now was the time to further reduce weight and find a way forward as its rivals nipped at its heels. The new RG Gamma, the XR45, weighed in at a svelte 106 kilograms. Unfortunately, a number of problems emerged with the XR45 and left riders feeling very uneasy. Race group members did everything they could to resolve the issues, but fell short and ended the season without a single win.
116キロだったかな、装備風車ね、最終的には。だけど今度ね、問題が起きたんだよ、運賃が。転倒したけど軽くしてばっかりいいじゃないわけで、バランスが良くない。だから振られるっていうかね、まっすぐ走らんわけよ。今となっては逆に元戻してあれした方が良かったかなと、もうちょっとね、重くバランスっていうのはあるじゃん。
軽くしすぎたのかもわからないですね、ひょっとしたらね。まあエンジンもそうでしょうけど、車体とのマッチングがあんまり良くなかったみたいですね。
いわゆるパワーのコントロールできないっていう状態まで来たんですよ。
Around the same time, Japanese motorcycle manufacturers were pushing sales competition too far, and this wound up doing them a disservice. Suzuki ceased all racing activities and said goodbye to the circuit. This was a period when Suzuki RGs earned an impressive 7 consecutive constructors' titles and enabled 4 riders' titles. It was the result of the passion and relentless effort of the many members of the race group and the legendary riders who rode for the team.
人がつかめんようなチャンスっていうのは転がってるな、方々にって、そう思うね。よそを気にすることなく仕事してほしいね。絶対見つかると思うんだよ。
レースを携わることによっていろんなものが見えてくるっていうんですかね。イエスマンだったらやっぱりいいものはなかなかできないんじゃないかな。
もう外へ出ればレース一本なんです。誠君あたりにバカにされるんだけども、全然横見てないです。正面ばかしか見てない。
バリが初めて日本へ来て、私もかなり車だったらいけるじゃないかなっていうのは思ってましたけどね。俺は今年はこれでやるって言って、言葉っていうのは忘れられるんですね。
面白く仕事をさせてもらったなっていうのがありますよね。ほとんど趣味の世界でしょ、レースっていうのは普通の人にとっては。それを仕事でやらせてもらったんですからね、こんなに面白かったことはないですよね。
RG が練習してる時代でしたから、もう見てても楽しい感じですかね。
諦めずにいろんなことにトライして、何かあったらやっぱりレースっていうのはね、時間との勝負だと思うんですよね。いかに早くマシンを開発していくかってことですよね。
みんな骨折しても出るもん。うんちにだってそうだね。マモラもそう。すげえなこいつは。もうプロ中のプロだなっつって。だからああいうの見てるとね、こいつのためにってこう思うね。
This passionate spirit has been passed down from generation to generation and created the Suzuki brand we know today. We've achieved so much by constantly seeking new arenas in which to challenge ourselves, and thanks to the efforts of the many people involved. And it goes without saying that we're still pushing ourselves today.